Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show! With special guest, Slip Rick the Skeleton.
It's not my fault the babes like me, man.
Also, Flo!
Perverts.
And don't forget about your legendary loser host himself, Creepy Joe!
Welcome to Creepy Joe's Horror Show. Tonight we have Christine, 1983.
Christine is a 1983 American supernatural horror film directed by John Carpenter and starring Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, Alexandra Paul, Robert Prosky, and Harry Dean Stanton. Written by Bill Phillips and based on the Stephen King 1983 novel of the same name. The movie follows the changes in the lives of Arnie Cunningham, his friends, his family, and his teenage enemies after Arnie buys a classic red and white 1958 Plymouth Fury named Christine, a car that seems to have a jealous, possessive personality and a mind of its own.
Alright, Christine, 1983, directed by the legend John Carpenter. And I'm not going to get into everything he did because that will take an entire video in and of itself, but we'll just say, those of you who aren't familiar, he's the director of Halloween and just he's done so many projects, but the story is by Stephen King, who is also obviously a legend, and it's done after his novel by the same name, Christine. Screenplay, Bill Phillips. But anyway, Christine is a movie about, basically, we're going to generally sum it up here. I'm not going to get into every detail, but Arnie Cunningham, who is a nerd, played by Keith Gordon, who has a best friend, Dennis, who's not a nerd. He's like captain of the football team type. I think he's a wide receiver. I'm not sure what position he plays, but I know he's going for a catch when he gets pummeled, so I think he's a wide receiver. Dennis, played by John Stockwell, who I think also is a vampire because he hasn't aged at all since the movie was made in 1983. But the movie starts out on the first day of school, and Dennis gives Arnie a ride to school. And while they're at their lockers, getting adjusted, a new girl comes down the hall named Lee, played by Alexandra Paul, and everyone's like, slobbering, and they're all obsessed with her.
Think it was a good idea? She smiled at me.
On the way, as the day goes on, it gets worse for Arnie. We'll just say the bullies of the school, Buddy Repperton, played by William Ostrander, I believe is his last name, but he's kind of like the Fonz and like John Travolta mix. I don't know. He's the bully. Him and a couple of his friends, harass Arnie, and they take his lunch, and it turns into this big fight. A knife gets pulled. Buddy Repperton pulls a knife, and Dennis ends up defending Arnie, and then they all get suspended.
Stick him. Wow. Stick him, buddy.
They are like out to get Arnie now because they're in more trouble, and I think two of them got kicked out of shop class.
Find somebody else to pick on. You kick them out,
So they're pissed at Arnie, and so that's how the day starts out. And then as they're driving home, Dennis gives Arnie a ride home from school, and has his busted glasses with the white tape in the middle because Buddy Repperton stepped on his glasses.
Come on, get him, man.
Yeah, so he's real pitiful. You get to know the character as being just an extremely pitiful, down on his luck dude, and then he gets overly excited and has Dennis stop the car because they drive past the 1958 Plymouth Fury.
Stop the car, Dennis. Stop the car. Stop the car. Quick, we go back. Go back.
That is abandoned in someone's yard. So he makes him stop the car, and he's obsessed with it immediately. And the man whose property it's on, it was the brother of the previous owner, who also was obsessed with the car and died in it, amongst many other things, which they find out later. But there's no talking Arnie out of it. Dennis tries.
It's a piece of shit, Arnie. But she could be fixed up. She could.
But Arnie buys the car, takes it home. He's not allowed to keep it at his house, so he has to keep it at Darnell's garage.
Don't think you got the gold key to the trap.
And Darnell, played by Robert Prosky, he's one of my favorite actors of the whole movie. His acting is just it's on point, and it's different. You know, if you knew how he really acted in real life, he plays that character really well. So he keeps it there, and it seems like everything's just getting worse and worse for him. And then next thing you know, Dennis is going out for a pass at his football game, and he sees Arnie making out with the beautiful girl named Lee, the one that they saw at the beginning, where, you know, she even turned down Dennis, you know, for a date, and here is because she already had one with Arnie. So the car already started psychologically changing him. I mean, he started dressing different. He doesn't wear glasses anymore, and he's making out with the hottest chick in school. So the car has already possessed him and changed him into someone who he definitely was not. And it seems like it's kind of a good thing. It could be a positive thing, but all in all, it's just evil.
Met someone, then watch out, world, because nobody can stop you. Then nobody, ever.
From this point forward, Arnie just, you know, gets crazier and crazier, and it gets to the point where the car tries to kill Lee while they're out on a date because the car gets jealous of her. And, you know, there's a lot of other things. The bullies, Buddy Repperton and his crew, tried to destroy the car. And then it came back, and it's ultimately killing them one by one in, you know, a lot of different creative ways. That a car could kill people. So I guess ultimately Dennis and Lee get together, and they both decide that they have to save Arnie's life. And I guess the ending, this is a complete spoiler, which all of my videos are spoilers, so you should be used to it by now, but they end up, you know, crushing the car. They do win, but Arnie gets killed in the process.
I'll forever love you.
So they don't save his life, but they do destroy the car. And then my prediction, they don't say this, but like, it kind of seemed like they were like, oh, okay, now Arnie's out of the picture, now they're probably going to go date or be together. Which, if they made a Christine 2, they totally would be dating in that one. But anyway, I will say, like, my most memorable moments of the movie would definitely be when the car's on fire and it goes in there and just murks like three people. It kills all three. It kills Buddy Repperton and the other two guys at the same time. It blows up the gas station. And, you know, they make a huge excessive explosion at the gas station. And then the car drives by itself and chases Buddy down, and that's that. So yeah, that's probably one of like the highlights of the movie. You know, obviously I have to say, even though I know these days like it could be easily done, but the scene where Arnie makes, you know, asks the car to come back to life after Buddy Repperton and them destroy it, it comes back to life. And I mean, that was pretty revolutionary for its time. Like when you saw that, you know, back in the 80s, it was, you know, it's really neat. It's still neat to this day, don't get me wrong, but you know, it was just kind of like, wow, how'd they do that? It's a lot of reverse, you know, filming. But yeah, that's a cool scene. That's one of the best scenes, I think, of the movie. And I'll rate this a 5 out of 5. This is definitely one of my top movies of all time, not just in horror, but, you know, of all. I love this movie. I grew up watching this, and I was, you know, it's what made me, you know, own a classic car to this day. Like, it's because of this movie. Like, I love I love Christine.
Let me tell you a little something about love, Dennis. It has voracious appetite.
Now that we're through with the Christine review, let's do the top 10 on my top favorite John Carpenter movies. There are so many other ones besides these 10 that it's hard to pinpoint just 10. Like there's ones that I leave out of here that people will probably be mad, but these are just the 10 off the top of my head as we sit here. So bear with me. The first one that pops into my head, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, just like Christine is They Live in 1988 with Roddy Piper. That movie it just has so much more meaning to it, and it's so relatable to what's going on today, actually. So, awesome movie. I'll definitely be doing a review on that soon. But another one is Assault on Precinct 13 that was made in 1976. That's an amazing movie as well, and a great movie for its time. 1980, The Fog. Another classic amongst, I mean, most of these are, well, I consider them classics. But Prince of Darkness in 1987, another banger. Another one of my favorites I mentioned in a couple other videos is Vampires, 1998, John Carpenter's Vampires. One of the most iconic vampires, Valak in that movie, awesome. 1981, Escape from New York. I mean, it's probably one of the greatest movies ever made. And then the follow-up in 1996 with Escape from LA is just, you know, I love that John Carpenter uses a lot of the same characters in his movies, and because most directors do that because they work well and they know how they work well with each other, obviously, so they keep some of the same actors. But Kurt Russell is definitely, you know, he's awesome, so that it's great that they do a lot of movies together. Speaking of Kurt Russell, The Thing, 1982. Arguably one of the greatest horror movies ever in creation, sci-fi horror, I guess you would say, for sure. But yeah, that's one of the greatest movies of all time, I'd say. And let's not forget about Big Trouble in Little China in 1986. Just banger after banger, man. But I saved the best, well, I don't know if I'd say the best, but what many would argue is the best for last, and that's Halloween in 1978. He also did Halloween 2 as well. But John Carpenter is definitely well known for Halloween. That's when you think of Halloween, you think of John Carpenter. So, you know, I have to throw it in there. But thank you for watching today's episode of Creepy Joe's Horror Show, Christine edition, and I'll be back next week. So, in the meantime, stay creepy.
How do you like that? Dick face.